Welcome to another edition of ParkTalk Podcast, the official podcast of the Naperville Park District.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the ParkTalk Podcast. I am your host, Danny Ream. As the warmer weather becomes more predictable and we're all out and about more frequently in our parks, throughout the community, and even traveling, it's important to understand how to practice situational awareness to protect yourself and your family. Joining me in our podcast studio are Park District Chief of Police Steve Schindlbeck and former Park District Executive Director and President of RJM Strategy Group, Ray McGury, to share ideas about how to enhance your personal safety. Thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Great to be here.
Yep.
Of course. Ray, I'm going to start with you. So not only are you the former Executive Director of the Naperville Park District, but you also have decades of experience in law enforcement. So while you understand the term situational awareness, many others don't. Can you explain exactly what it means and why it's so important?
Sure. I guess I'd start out by saying, unfortunately, we are the most situationally unaware society. If there was a place or a person to track situational awareness, we would probably be the worst over history. And it's partly because of, all the electronics that we have now, all the devices, all the gadgets, which are great. I mean, I will fight you to the death for my phone. Nobody takes my phone away from me. But, unfortunately, that has created an atmosphere for what I call predators, people to prey upon you and do things to you because you're not paying attention. So when we talk about situational awareness, I always ask people, especially in the self-defense classes that we host, that if you're going to be jogging, try to take an ear pod out. Look up from your phone occasionally. If you're at a stoplight, most carjackings occur through diversion. So in the carjacking, especially in the city, my son right now lives in Lincoln Park. He's actually moving back out to the Naperville area. I think a couple of weeks ago, because he has like a tracking device on his phone for crime, there were 12 carjackings in just in the Lincoln Park area.
Wow.
And so it's these diversions. So situational awareness is just taking in what's around you. What I don't want people to do is be obsessed, meaning, okay, Ray just said situationally aware, so that means all the time, everywhere, we all mess up. But trying to be a little bit better at that and be situationally aware of, like, when you pull up to a stoplight, when you walk into the store, and we'll probably get to this, but I'm going to say it a couple times, knowing your exits, knowing how to get out of a place. Situational awareness, that's one of the first things we do, is we try to teach people from this point forward, don't ever walk into any location, anywhere. I don't care where it is. I don't care if you've been in there multiple times without knowing how to get out. Because the best way to survive a really bad incident is don't be there.
Yeah, it's like a fine balance between constantly being anxious about your surroundings, but also still being aware of the building or public space that you're in.
Yeah, just knowing how to leave. We'll do something, and we'll talk. I'm sure we're going to talk about the self-defense seminar. We will teach people at that seminar how to get out of a concert, like at Tinley Park, Soldier Field, wherever you're at, quickly. Something bad starts happening. You know where your exit's at, so you want to get to that exit. How do you physically get out of that? But you got to first know where that exit is at.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm going to open it up to both of you. What are some ways that residents should be practicing situational awareness no matter where they are? So, Chief, if you'd like to start.
Well, I think Ray touched on it earlier. It's important that you pay attention to what is going on around you. We do a lot of active shooter training within the district, talking to the employees, and we tell the people, even though you're cutting grass somewhere, I want you to look up from time to time and pay attention to what's going on around you. And just as importantly, if you see something that's making you feel uncomfortable, then you need to act on it. Take yourself away from it, contact somebody because you're seeing something that, again, you think maybe is unlawful that's going on. Tell somebody else that you're working with. The crazy thing about the situational awareness, it can mean two different things to two people that are standing right next to each other. And it's important that you trust your gut and you act on whatever it is you're feeling.
Ray,
that's spot on. I mean, like I said before, And the chief here is still continuing to be the real police. I'm retired now for 30 years out of law enforcement, but what kept me alive for 30 years, probably to a greater extent, was my situational awareness. We would make, and he still does, but I don't anymore, thousands of traffic stops, and I can probably count on one hand 4 of them right now I can think of where something was wrong. Was 2 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but something was not right about that car. And of the 4 that I'm thinking of in my head right now, 2 I was 100% right on. Something bad was going on. And that was that gut instinct. When you feel that in the pit of your stomach, when you feel like I need to cross the street, something's not right here. Or when I feel like, okay, there's 2 guys starting to fight, or 2 gals starting to fight in a bar, all right? Most people, what they do now, they whip out their cell phones and they start filming that. It's one of the worst things you can possibly do, okay? One of the worst things you can possibly, get out, leave. And so just knowing something's wrong, use that instinct that you've been given to your advantage.
Yeah, trust your gut.
Absolutely.
Chief, our park police enjoy a collaborative relationship with the City of Naperville Police. One of the shared communications initiatives is around Lock It or Lose It, which ramps up during the spring and the summer, especially when the weather gets nicer. Can you talk about the purpose of this campaign and how it's pertinent to Park District patrons?
Yep, you make a good point when you bring up the relationship that we have with the Naperville Police, because I would argue that we work closer now with the Naperville Police and we train with the Naperville Police more than we ever have. And then we engage in the same programs that they have throughout the town. This Lock It or Lose It program was targeted to people that feel comfortable leaving their cars unlocked. And unfortunately, there are groups of people that spend their day driving around to parking lots in and around Naperville and every other town around here. And they simply try car doors. And this really happens in the middle of the night in neighborhoods, but it happens in parking lots as well, because all they have to do is park their car, get out unassumingly, and just walk around and casually try car doors. And it's incredible the number of cars that are left unlocked. And they can certainly get in there without anybody noticing. And unfortunately, people like to leave valuables in plain sight. So even if the door is locked, from time to time, they'll actually shatter the window and simply grab the purse because it's sitting on the seat. So we encourage people as part of this program to take their valuables and don't leave them in plain sight, but actually hide them. Put them in the trunk, put them under the seat where it's not obvious to anybody that would be walking up to the car, walking by it.
Yeah, I know personally, I'm always clicking lock on my key fob probably like 8 or 9 times just to make sure it's locked.
Exactly.
I don't keep anything in my car, and if I do, I tuck it in the back seat, put it under the chair, because I am way more, I guess, on edge that I don't want anyone breaking into my car. And so it boggles my mind sometimes that people just leave their cars unlocked.
Yeah.
But this is a great campaign to just kind of remind everyone, especially as everyone's getting outside way more, to just simply lock your car. Ray, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Sure.
While being situationally aware is a good first step to protecting oneself, as a Krav Maga, am I saying that?
Krav Maga.
Krav Maga. As a Krav Maga certified instructor, you also advocate for learning basic self-defense skills and teach classes on the topic. For someone with no previous self-defense training, how do you get someone up to speed quickly with enough basic knowledge and skills to protect themselves?
The class that we'll be hosting here, I think in 2 or 3 weeks.
June 5th.
June 5th.
Yes.
That will be a very basic class, and it will do some very basic things. But I'll say this now, and I'm sure I'll say it then, is when we do the class, and when I instruct people, men and women, will look at me, being a larger person, and go, "There's no way I can beat you." And I said, "That's not true." And Krav Maga will help you with that. I said, but besides Krav Maga, and let me stop for 1 second. Being physically fit is going to be helpful. All right. So when I spar people, our rounds are 5-minute rounds. All right. The average street fight, because this is Krav Maga is not. It's considered martial arts, but there's no Krav Maga tournaments. Okay.
Right.
I train in Muay Thai. Muay Thai, there are tournaments. Okay, Krav Maga, no tournaments. So they're both great. One focuses more on defense, street, protecting yourself and having to take, if you have to take action, things that you can do. With all of this, the very first thing you're always going to try to do is run. Now, I don't run as fast anymore. I can still run, but I can't run like I used to. So I'm probably not going to get away from somebody, all right? So I'm going to probably have to fight someone, which is the last thing I want to do. People look at me and they go, oh, you definitely want to fight people. No, I don't, because I see the civil litigation, and the bigger part of that, even more than that, is I don't want to get hurt. I'm not a young guy. Criminals, the chief will tell you, they stay in their 20s, teens. Us guys, we just get older.
When we talk about the active shooter training, when we go through the active shooter training, the one thing that we tell the class is that an active shooter typically trains for about 4 months. So in other words, they spend day in, day out, 4 months thinking about how they're going to execute this plan that they have. The one thing that they will never, ever be able to control is how the people that they're focused on attacking are going to respond. And like Ray said, there's your options right there. Mm-hmm. If you can't get away, if you can't lock down, and you have to counter, the last thing we want you to do is freeze. A typical reaction to a critical incident for somebody is fight, flight, or freeze. What we try to do is teach freeze out of the equation so that they do something instead of just stand there and be victimized.
And do nothing, right. You're trying to engage your cognitive brain, excuse me, as opposed to your visceral brain. Visceral is good. Visceral, is I call it the cavewoman brain. Everybody's really good at training in a gym. But when you get on the street, and that's the one thing I will say at the seminar, is that people are amazed. They're amazed. Like, I can't believe this happened to me. I can't believe that happened to so-and-so. And I said, you know what? There are no rules. The UFC has rules. Boxing has rules. Wrestling has rules. The Predators, they don't play by rules. So you can't be shocked by that. Mm-hmm. Again, is that just being able to engage that frontal brain, being in shape the best you can. And even, again, I'm not saying you have to be a power lifter, a bodybuilder, a marathoner, but again, the average fight's about 45 seconds, and it's over with. About 45 seconds. And usually the person that loses is the person that runs out of gas. Plain and simple. Mm-hmm. So if you can't run and you have to fight, don't run out of gas.
Yeah, and we kind of already touched on this about the class that you'll be teaching in early June, which is called Real World and Self-Defense. Can you talk about what your goals are in hosting a class on this topic and explain what participants can expect or take away from the experience?
Sure. Yeah. So, again, we're not making them into John Wick or Jason Bourne. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
This is all practice. And some may say, you know what? I want my kids to do some self-defense, or I may want to take self-defense up now myself. It does not have to be Krav Maga. There are so many great disciplines out there. I think that my goal is to have people walk out more so with more situational awareness than fight skills, but very, very basic things. But I think it's enough that people will have some confidence. I don't want false hope, though. I don't want people walking out of there and pounding their chest going, well, I can blankety blank somebody now. Mm-hmm. No, you can't. No, you can't. Your best, again, is to, and you'll hear me say it, the first 30 minutes I'll be talking, I'm going to say, we're going to talk about every which way that I can prevent you from using what I'm about to teach you in about a half hour. I don't want you to have to lay hands on anybody. I'd rather have you be more aware of what's going on around you, remove yourself from that situation, than have to fight.
It'll be like a last case.
That's always last case scenario.
Yeah.
And when we would teach run, hide, fight together, active, when Alice trainers and stuff like that, fighting is the last thing. Always the last thing. That's your last resort. Played 3 chess pieces, as we call them. Run, hide, fight. Run always first. Oh, I can't run. Bad guy's outside the door. Okay, now we're going to barricade. Okay. Uh-oh, he's coming through. Now we got to fight. Mm-hmm. So fighting from a self-defense standpoint, at least the way I teach it and the way my instructors teach it, that's the bottom. That's you have nowhere else to go. That's it. You can't get out that door because you can't get to it.
Yeah, and I think that will be a very important class. I think it will be a very useful class. So if anyone that is listening before Thursday, June 5th, definitely register for Ray's Real World Safety and Self-Defense class over at napervilleparks.org. So thank you for explaining all of that, Ray.
Sure.
Sounds like it's going to be a really important, really topical course.
I hope so.
Chief, I'm going to turn the last question over to you. This is a great opportunity to remind our listeners about how to communicate any concerns to park police as they're out enjoying our parks and attending summer events. And we kind of touched on this earlier, but how and when should people reach out to our park police?
So I want people to understand that there's never going to be an instance where they're bothering us. We're out there typically patrolling from 8 in the morning to midnight, 7 days a week. Sometimes I have one car out there. Sometimes I may have as many as 6. If you see an officer and you want to walk up to them and have a conversation with them, then do that. I mean, they're more than happy to have a conversation with you. And if you have some concerns about anything that might be going on in a park and you want to get their opinion of it, they'll certainly share what they think with you. Don't ever think you're bothering us. It's kind of like we subscribe to the theory of if you see something, we would like you to say something. Mm-hmm. If you see something that's making you feel uncomfortable, we would like you to say something to us. We have a non-emergency number, 630-601-0925. But if it's that much of an emergency, you can certainly call 911. Mm-hmm. And you need to understand that our radios, we work on the same channel as the city police. So if somebody has an emergency in a park district, on a park district property, in a remote area of town, and they call 911, they may not get the park police first, but we're coming. But more importantly, they're going to get a city car that is closer than us that can respond in a more timely manner and manage whatever the incident is until we get there. But because we work as closely as we do, because we train as often as we do with them, we end up being great resources for each other. But I don't want anybody in the public to ever think that they're bothering us.
Yeah, I do think the perception is they don't want to escalate a situation by involving police, or they are like, oh, this situation might not require police. But as you said, it's the police job to kind of monitor a situation, maybe de-escalate a situation. And so kind of referring back to that gut feeling, if you do have that gut feeling, like you said, contact the proper authorities.
And because we have that non-emergency number, if they want to contact us and tell us what they're thinking, mm-hmm. we'll tell them how we think that we should respond, if at all.
Definitely. Well, here at the Naperville Park District, public safety always remains one of our top priorities. We want to ensure that our residents and guests can feel safe and enjoy our parks, facilities, and events throughout the year, while understanding the importance of practicing situational awareness. Ray and Chief Schindlbeck, thank you again for being my guests and sharing your thoughts on this very important and timely topic.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. If you're looking for more content, you can find all our podcast episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, or at napervilleparks.org/podcast. Full-length video episodes can now be found on the Naperville Park District YouTube page. As always, be sure to stay up to date on everything going on with the Naperville Park District by following us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or by visiting our website at napervilleparks.org.
Thank you for listening. The Naperville Park District's mission is to provide park and recreation experiences that promote healthy lives, healthy minds, and a healthy community. ParkTalk Podcast is a production of the Naperville Park District.